Hello and welcome back to the Anxious Love Coach podcast. And hello, YouTube, if you are watching today. In this episode, I want to talk about how to get rid of FOMO in a relationship. And I know I put three ways to get rid of FOMO in a relationship, but that's mainly because threes sound nice. I actually have four for you, so enjoy. I would have given you five because that's also like a friendly number, but I couldn't think of a fifth one off the top of my head at this particular moment. I'm sure it will come to me a fifth way after I record because that's how life works sometimes. But today, 4 ways you can get rid of FOMO in your relationship. FOMO being fear of missing out. If you are someone who is with a partner that you really, really adore, and there's just a real strong inkling to keep going, even though you're feeling however you're feeling, provided you have kind of similar life goals and compatible life goals, and yet you kind of can't shake the feeling that there's more out there. First of all, I just want to let you know that you're not alone. It's something I've been through. It's something that Preston has gone through, and it's literally anyone I know who's been in a long-term relationship has experienced FOMO in some way or another. I actually made a short TikTok on this, but as always, TikToks and even Instagram posts lack context. So I'm going to do my best to give way more context here so that you can really feel into this for yourself and customize this to your own liking, figure out which tools work for you and which don't. I also want to say that FOMO is not something that's reserved for people who are in long-term relationships. I also want to point out that your FOMO might not be caused by your relationship. You might just have a mindset where you get FOMO, period. You get FOMO when you're shopping. You got FOMO when you were choosing a career. You got FOMO when you were trying to figure out what to order for lunch. And that same programming gets applied to your relationship. So a lot of people, they freak out when they're experiencing FOMO. They take their thoughts at face value about their partner. If I'm having FOMO, that means I'm missing out. If I'm having FOMO with my relationship, I must be with the wrong partner. Maybe, or you're just a person that gets FOMO all the time, and that FOMO is getting applied to your relationship. I know a lot of people like this. I know people who are single that have FOMO. They won't even really go on a second or third date because they're perceiving that that time could be with someone else. They have this definition of freedom as having infinite choices, but never actually choosing a path. And in that way, they make a choice anyway, but they make the choice to not make a decision and to have life make the decision for them when life inevitably forces you down a path, which unfortunately, when you make the choice to have life choose your path for you, you lose your sovereignty. You have a free will that is not based, your choice was not based on love, it was based on fear. And so you have planted seeds of fear and you have grown a tree of fear. So it's my hope that this episode will help you move in the direction of making a decision and see what's getting in the way. I would love for you to see the shackles you might have put yourself in if you are struggling to make a decision. I actually care more about you making a decision. I care more about you making a decision than which decision you make, because once you make a decision, you're moving towards something, you're building something. You're starting to get the benefits of making a commitment to something. But when you're not committing to something, you're really at the mercy of life coming at you, and you have less control. In a weird way, a lot of us think that if we don't make a decision, we've got all the control. It's quite the opposite. And a lot of times we don't realize it until much, much later. So 4 ways that you can get rid of FOMO, period, that you can plant, that you can apply to your relationship. So I want to start with number 1 by suggesting that you examine the society that you live in, which is all about shopping and comparing and instant gratification. You've got Amazon Prime. You can literally order something and have it to your doorstep the next day, maybe even that night. You can go on Tinder and you can potentially be talking to someone super sexy and potentially a great match in the next 20 minutes if you want to. This does something quite barbaric to our brains if you think about it, that we have this perception that we can have the thing that we say that we want instantly. And as a result, we've really forgotten the benefits of the long game and the humility that it takes to show up and day in and day out and build something day by day by day by day by day. Just like you can't gain a bunch of weight in a day, or you can't lose a bunch of weight in a day, you can't build a great relationship in a day. So even if there is a lot of chemistry, which by the way, chemistry is not enough to make a relationship work, even if there's a lot of chemistry, that says nothing about whether this person is a long-term fit for you. Now, does that mean that you can't desire other people? Does that mean that someday you might not want an open relationship or not, or something like this? I'm not really in a position right now where I can speak on that, but I can see how it could work given there being a lot of consciousness. But a lot of us assume that when we make a decision, it's going to be that way forever. I guarantee you it's not. It just means that when you make a decision, you start to move forward, and you have to also know that you can change it. You can't really turn around, but you can change paths anytime. Anyway, so number one was take a look at the society that you're living in and the messages that you're receiving about, A, you're not enough, you're ugly, you need to buy more makeup, you need to buy this cologne, you need to buy this car, or else no one's going to want you. You won't even like yourself. If you buy my product, you'll feel good about yourself. If you buy my product, you'll be more attractive. And then you go on Instagram or on TikTok and you say, if you see a message that says, if your man isn't doing this for you, well, he ain't the one, honey. If he didn't roll out the red carpet for you today, well, he's not treating you like a queen. You should leave. It doesn't matter that he provides for you in a financial sense. It doesn't matter that he's going through a health issue. Like, just these 30-second black and white messages that pigeonhole our long-term, complex, nuanced beauty of relationships, and they get condensed into these black and white, yes or no, right and wrong videos. I'll be the first to admit I still get sucked into these. But the point is, these messages that we're receiving, these oversimplifications of how relationships should and shouldn't be, are bombarding us everywhere. And so we're getting lots of should-ing type messages. You should do this. Your partner should be doing that. And I think these were helpful at one point, but now there's just so much noise and so many people saying contradictory shoulds that it can get really, really confusing. And after some time, we start outsourcing our self-trust to everybody else. Also, when you're living in a kind of Amazon Prime type of society, get whatever you want, however you want it, right away, with no waiting, no commitment, no anything, customer guarantee, you can get a refund. Okay, we've started applying this instant gratification mindset to our partnerships. And as a result, we are shopping and comparing our relationships. So when you're sitting by your partner, or you're going to bed beside your partner and they're farting because they had way too much chili last night, and you don't want to open the door because it's wintertime and it's cold, and so now you're hot boxed in this room, and you go on TikTok and you just see this like beautiful couple where there's just like tantrically gazing into each other's eyes, and you're like, man, I don't have that. I must be really missing out. I must have done something wrong. Was this it? Is this me getting hot boxed in a January, and like my partner ate something bad? I can smell it. No, this is it. It's just you're not seeing all that stuff. So when you're going on to the hive mind that is in the internet, you're being forced into your head, and you're paying attention to everything you don't have. You're paying attention to what you're missing out on. And you might not even notice that you got sucked in. I'm telling you this because I get sucked in, and I practice mindfulness a lot. It's literally what I do for a living, and I get sucked into these. So I can just imagine how someone who doesn't have these practices and hasn't ever looked into mindfulness, and mindfulness is really noticing what you are noticing. That's all mindfulness is. Paying attention to where your attention is. That's what mindfulness is. It's, notice where my attention is. Oh, I got sucked in again. Haha. All right. Redirect the attention, because as long as your attention is you want to know how you're lacking mindfulness, you guys. Fundamentally, I'm not even a relationship anxiety coach, you guys. I'm a mindfulness teacher. I just apply mindfulness to partnership. If you are on Instagram or YouTube, or heck, even if you are consuming my podcast, if you are not even aware of your breath or the fact that you have a body or that it has sensation, are you currently listening to my voice completely disembodied? Is it just sound coming through your ears, or can you also feel the surface of whatever you're sitting on? Can you hear my voice as you are simultaneously aware of your breath? Okay, we want to distribute our attention. This is a practice. And actually, in my programs, I teach something called the awareness exercise. And it's literally about spreading out your attention. So, not 100% of your attention is in the content you're consuming, to the point where you're almost just like a floating consciousness, a floating brain. You've completely lost awareness of sensation, of your breath. I'm literally like, you can't see it in the YouTube video, but like I am actively touching my desk. So I'm simultaneously communicating with you and having thoughts, but 100% of my attention is not in my thoughts. Like half my attention is in my thinking and conveying this message to you. The other half of my attention is kind of appreciating the seat beneath me. It's enjoying this breath I just took. It's feeling the silky smoothness of this really nice desk. So I'm able to communicate with you without losing connection with my body. And when I have a connection with my body, I have a connection to this moment, because my attention, because I live inside a body, this awareness that lives inside this human body. When you are not in your body, you are disconnected from yourself. When you're disconnected from yourself, you're very easily swayed by other people's thoughts, because you're like, the tail is wagging the dog rather than the dog wagging the tail. And having a mindfulness practice, which is noticing what you are noticing, then you won't get so yanked out of the present moment where you can appreciate what's right in front of you. Otherwise, we're going to be shopping and comparing all the time. All right. Now, I still think it's a good idea to shop and compare when you're doing something financially, like buying a house. Like, by all means, use your mind, use your logic brain for all that. But when your level of relationship satisfaction is determined by what you just saw on TikTok that was not on your mind at all an hour, maybe you were, for me, the biggest indicator if I should listen to something that I saw on the internet is, was I like super content with my relationship until I saw this video and then I found something to be angry about at my partner? This literally happened last week. I saw this like TikTok of this really buff guy, and he was like, gentlemen, we need to understand that women are doing everything in the world. You know, she cooks, she cleans, she does the laundry, she takes care of the family. But who's taking care of her, gentlemen? Who's taking care of her laundry? Who's cooking and cleaning for her? You know, at the end of the day, nobody's taking care of her. And okay, it's a TikTok video. You know who it got sent to? Did it get sent to men? No, because men would swipe past that, to be honest. No, it showed up on my For You page. It showed up on women's For You page. And you look at the comments, who's commenting it? Who's commenting? Is it men? No, it's women. It's women saying, God, I wish he would see this. I wish he would do this for me. La, 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 la. And I'm not saying that he's wrong. All I'm saying is, I picked a fight with Preston after that and asked him to do my laundry. And then I was like, oh, actually, that didn't, the desire for him to do my laundry actually was not there until I saw that TikTok video, which tells me something. I was not actually upset that Preston doesn't do my laundry. He doesn't do my laundry. I do my own laundry. He does his own laundry. But, you know, there's a little narcissistic part inside of me that does want that red carpet. And I get it all the time, you guys, but I don't get it 24/7 because my partner is human and not God, and vice versa. So if you were feeling humble and gracious and grateful before, and then a TikTok video snapped you into entitlement, be wary. That might not be you. That might be someone else's truth, but it might not be yours. When something is your truth, it'll come through you regardless of whether you're active on TikTok or not. When your TikToks, if you're a content creator, when your TikToks start sounding like everybody else's TikToks, you might be consuming too much of other people's opinions. if you are that easily swayed by a TikTok video, we need to practice more mindfulness. Okay, so that's number one. That was a long one. And if you just get this one piece, you will be better off than a lot of other people who are experiencing FOMO in partnership. Notice how you're shopping and comparing as if you are trying to buy a house, as if you are shopping for a TV, but you're looking at a partner. It's useful in some contexts and not useful in others. I'm a big advocate for the good enough partner that your body, mind, and soul aligns with. And I really hesitate to say that because some people are going to be like, my body's not saying yes right now. And there's so many reasons why that might not be the case. That I unfortunately I'm not going to be covering in this video. There's a lot of stuff in the past on trusting your gut. Go listen to those past podcasts. But what I will say is that although it's not as simple as this, it's going to be really hard to make an empowering decision about your relationship and feeling good about your decisions in relationship if you are disembodied and only making decisions from your head. A lot of you data people, sciencey people, and trust me, I used to be that person. I have a pharmaceutical science degree and background. I used to live by the science. If it didn't have a study behind it, it didn't exist. And that actually fueled a lot of my anxiety because there came a point where the studies didn't capture all the nuance. And there was still a lot of uncertainty. There was a lot of uncertainty that science couldn't make certain. And when my quest for finding a cut and dry, clean answer in my relationship, when I couldn't find that, I freaked out. And so I think a lot of us go into this is a hypothesis that I'm making right now, and I cannot prove it, cannot do a study. But I think a lot of us who are highly educated and have gone to the sciences as a way to make life make more sense, a lot of us who go into that, I assume, I'm making a guess, that we might struggle in relationship where things are not so cut and dry. They're not so obvious. There's not this clear right and wrong. The scientific method doesn't always apply in our decisions about relationships. Sometimes we do need to make an informed decision, but the rest might be completely faith-based, and we have to be willing to get our hearts broken and be disappointed when things don't work out. So that's number one. Number two, a lot of times when we're experiencing FOMO, we have made a decision and we are turning around and looking at all the other decisions we left behind, the decisions we did not make. I forget who coined this. I've heard multiple men's coaches say that when you make a decision, you should burn all the ships in the harbor of your mind. And I forget who said that. If you know who said it, tell me. But I think I heard Brian Reeves Insight say it at one point, but it might have come from someone before him or something else. Burn all the ships in the harbor of your mind. That said, I guess I should say the reason that this is a powerful statement is because the ships are the ones that kind of make you think that you have a way out. And by the way, you always have a way out, but while you are busy looking at all your ways out, again, you're missing what's right in front of you. You're missing the canvas that's right in front of you that you could start painting on. And if you don't want a blank canvas at the end of your life, commit to starting to paint. You can always throw the canvas away and start over, but you're not going to create a masterpiece that is a long-term relationship where you've built something together if you don't stop looking at everybody else's canvas. If you don't start painting, you're going to be left with a blank canvas at the end of your life. So, burn the ships in the harbor of your mind, but also grieve your unlived lives. Have a little ritual for the free spirit that maybe you didn't choose to be. If you decided to become a mother, grieve the life path where you were child-free. Grieve the life path where maybe you just focused on your career. And I actually do this with my clients sometimes. We do something called parts work, or my teacher, Steffi Price, called it polarity work. It's basically just accessing parts of yourself and having them do dialogue with each other. What you can do is like project an image of a version of you that lives in another reality. and like have that person sit across from you and have a conversation. So, for instance, I might imagine where I would be by now in my life if I did not choose Preston 10 years ago, if I had decided to be single over the last 10 years. Just to reiterate, if I were to project a version of myself that had not been with Preston over the last 10 years. Maybe she was someone that dated another guy, or maybe she was single and traveled the world, or maybe she married young and had a kid by now. Okay. So these are all potential life paths, realities that I could have taken. Or I could talk to a version of myself in the future 10 years from now based on a decision I'm making right now. What's really cool about this stuff is it's for fun and it's about processing these emotions and less about like getting an accurate representation of a real part of yourself. You have to use your imagination. It's a little bit of a hippie spiritual thing. I do it all the time though. You could have a ritual where you talk to a version of yourself in another life, and you could say to them like, I miss you, or I'm going to miss you, or how can I stay connected to you even though I'm choosing this life path in this body, or I just want you to know that I see you, you know, child-free self, or husband-free self, or career-oriented self, like, oh, I love you, I see you, and I'm always going to be thinking of you, and la 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 la, and I honor you, right? So it has some kind of ritual where you see the alternate reality, the path you didn't take, and have a real ritual, light some candles, put on some music, do a little journal dialogue with this character inside that didn't get to materialize, and take some time to really honor this part. And what you may find is that you are actually not necessarily leaving this life behind. You can take aspects of that character in that reality and infuse your current choice with that. So, for instance, I might be, let's say I'm grieving my single traveler self, the one that never met Preston, and just after she graduated college, she just traveled for 10 years. Okay. How might I bring traveling into my life with Preston? Okay, that's obviously a very oversimplified example, but a lot of times these selves that we're grieving, we actually can, maybe not in this moment, but in the future, we might be able to integrate this part of us, and so that we know for ourselves that this is an important aspect of ourselves. Okay, so that's number 2. Grieve your unlived lives. Have a ritual and speak to those parts of yourself that you're leaving behind. All right. Number 3, this is something that is a little more Jedi, a little more shadow work, but it's an interesting thing to examine as well. Let's say you're having FOMO and you let's say you decided to be in a long-term relationship, monogamous relationship with one person, and you are grieving your single life. Maybe a hookup culture that you never got to be a part of, or you never got to spread your seed as a man. You got to be with your one woman, and you're grieving like being more, I don't want to use the word promiscuous because it has like there's a lot of negative connotation to that word, but let's say you were more, you guys know what I mean, right? Like you were not with one person. Maybe you had a lot of partners, or you were sexually very liberated and free. Not that you can't be sexually liberated when you're monogamous, far from it. But anyway, you guys get what I mean. I'm not pigeonholing anybody here. What are you perceiving that you would get inside if you got that thing? So for example, a lot of times when we are fighting our current circumstances, let's say we're monogamous and we feel like we missed out on having lots of sexual partners. Now, there's a difference between kind of wanting lots of sexual partners because that's an authentic expression of who we are. But it's worth noting also when the desire to have lots of partners is coming from a wounded place. I'm not saying that it is for each person, but I'm willing to make a bet that for many people it is coming from a wounded place. Maybe you have a belief that if you were to have more partners, or if you were to be with that person instead of the person that you were with right now, that would mean something about you. Maybe you would consider yourself a more high value partner or high value person, or And this is something really interesting to think about. I see this for men a lot. A lot of men who find that they get value out of being with lots and lots and lots of women and are never satisfied with one woman. Not saying this for everybody, but it might be for some. And this is why I'm bringing this up, just so that you can notice if that's you, if there's any validity to it or not. If not, then don't worry, it doesn't apply to you. But it's worth pointing out. A lot of men might have never felt like they got unconditional love from their mothers. And so they might be looking for that unconditional love they never got from their mothers in the form of infinite women. So, and it might be the opposite for women as well. We might have felt like we never were unconditionally seen by our fathers. And so we're looking for the infinity of being seen through infinite numbers of partners. If that's the case, we have a wounded inner child that needs attention, because until you have seen that part of yourself that is desiring unconditional love, if you have not met yourself with that, you are going to be looking to flawed human beings who cannot give you unconditional love in every single context. And we're going to look for that through sheer quantities of people. Okay, so we just want to rule that out. Are you looking for something that you didn't get from childhood in a person? Okay, now you might be doing that in your existing relationship. It's worth noting that as well. But my point here is to take something that might not be conscious and make it more conscious. Notice if you are trying to make your partner or partners into a parent that you did not have. So start to look at your wounding. A lot of times, FOMO, fear of missing out, it could be that we are looking to unconsciously heal a wound through looking outside ourselves. So that's like my more, for whatever reason, I think my language was a little twisted here, but I hope that that makes sense. Are you looking outside of yourself and thinking that you're going to find something in someone else that's going to heal a void inside? And no one's going to be able to do that for you. And number 4, I have said this many times, getting rid of FOMO does not mean squashing your desires for more. There's a difference between I am not enough and I need to seek outside myself to feel enough and to become enough. There's a difference between that and I'm enough and worthy and I desire more, right? So one of them is like an anxious grasping to fill something inside. And the other one comes from a place of abundance and desire. I recommend getting to the latter place. And with that, number 4 is to have a life outside of your relationship. Don't try to get all your needs met by one person, however you want to define that. Some people decide to, make some sacrifices and stay monogamous, and then they have a robust life in the community and clients or friendships or family, and they're getting a lot of needs met through that. Some people decide to be in open relationships, right? There's many, many ways to do relationships. Personally, my partner and I at the moment are monogamous and have been since we've been together. But for us, nothing is off the table for the future. It's just a matter of where we are right now. Monogamy works for us best. But have a life outside of your partnership so that you are able to honor those sides of you that you spoke with during your unlived lives grief ritual, right? So those sides of yourself that you supposedly left behind, how can you honor them while in relationship? How can you remain your own person while in partnership? And with that, I also want to remind you to speak to real people, real couples that you admire. Do you have people in your life? Do you have couples that you look up to have you actually spoken to them about what it's like to be in that relationship? A lot of times the only reference point we have for healthy relationships are people supposedly on TikTok and Instagram, maybe even podcasts, um, YouTube, but you don't actually know those people. It's worth noting that everything that I share on here, you guys, is still curated. Yes, it's nuanced. Yes, it's authentic. And part of my authenticity is admitting that I'm a little fake, quite a bit. And it's not because I want to send you mixed messages. It's not because uh, I want you to think that my life is perfect. No, it's just that there's some things I don't want to share with the public and have criticized and nitpicked. There's some things that Preston and I want to just keep to ourselves, and that's okay. But built into that kind of agreement means you're not getting the full picture. My best friends know what's going on behind the scenes in my relationship, and it's like, damn, this stuff is messy, you guys. So because if you spoke to me in person, I might share a little bit more with you and say, here's some real conversations Preston and I have had. Here's how hard it's actually been sometimes. And if you were to hear some of the stuff that I don't share publicly, you might be like, oh my God, does that mean I'm inauthentic? Yes and no. It's just, I like to have a little bit of privacy. But like I said, that means that you're not getting the whole picture. So when you're looking at couples that you actually admire, talk to them behind the scenes, talk to them behind closed doors. What's it actually like to be with them for 20 years? What were the hardest times for you? What kind of conversations have you had? Because that will hopefully pop the bubble that everything is perfect over there, because it's not. The people that you look up to who look so calm and so peaceful, you don't know what kind of shit they had to go through to get there. That's not the part that they post for whatever reason. Either they posted it and you didn't see it, or they never posted it for personal reasons and they don't owe that to you. There's a difference between who we really are and the persona that we curate to put onto the internet. It is a persona. I am wearing one right now. Okay. And that's not a bad thing. The only way that a person can be truly authentic is if it's like the Truman Show and I have a camera on me at all times. Do you want a camera on you at all times? And guess what? If I did have a camera on me at all times, you would not watch it. And whatever parts of the video that you didn't see, you wouldn't want to have to catch up on it, because the majority of my day to day is very uneventful. I'm scrolling on TikTok. I'm stretching. My back hurt. I walked over and gave Preston a kiss. I asked him to open a jar. I said, hey, can you pick me up a chicken sandwich? And then there's 1% of our relationship, if that, where it's we're having a really tough conversation, or 1 out of every 6 months, we have a really bad fight, a really, really bad one. Okay, but it's so rare, but that it is significant and it's not captured on camera and you don't see it. I can only talk about it after the fact, and I can talk about it from a different lens. I can talk about it from the lens of having already had that fight. But you didn't see it in the moment when all my wounding came up and all my trauma came up. That would be perfectly authentic, but I'm not going to capture it and be like, hey guys, Preston and I are in the middle of a fight. Come watch us, right? That would be authenticity. So I might make a whole podcast on authenticity online is overrated. We want authenticity, but it just can't be. The only way for it to be authentic is for you to be a full-time witness of my life. That would be authenticity, but no one's going to do that, especially not for free. Anyway, so number 4 is have a life outside your relationship, and talk to real people that are not you. Talk to people that you admire and really get to know what it's actually like in these so-called relationships that you think are so great. I'm not saying that they're not great, but I am saying that they're probably, or I'm not saying that they're bad, is what I meant to say. I'm not saying these relationships are bad, but what I'm saying is they're probably not as great as you made up in your head. They're not perfect. They're beautiful, but they are messy. And it doesn't mean that they don't fight, and it doesn't mean that they don't fight hard. It doesn't mean that there's no times where we don't fight fair. It doesn't mean that there's never anything. A lot can happen. It can get really heated. There can be a lot of anger. And I wouldn't choose anything else over it. So that's my experience. I trust my decisions. So just to recap, how to get rid of FOMO in a relationship. examine how you are using, number one, examine how you're using the shop and compare mentality that you use on Amazon and applying it to your relationship. Notice how you are taken out of your body. Use your mindfulness practice to notice when you're taken out of your body, when you're consuming content, whether that's Hollywood videos or TikToks or anything, or books even. If you're getting yanked out of your body, come back to your fingers, your toes, your breath, so that you're not completely consumed by illusions that you see on social media. Number 2, grieve your unlived lives. Have a ritual where you speak to parts of yourself that may have taken another path. Number 3, notice if there is any wounding, any story around who you think you would be if you had this other thing. And is it really true? And number 4, A, have a life outside your relationship. And within that, B, talk to real couples that you admire and kind of have them burst your bubble. You think they're so perfect? Talk to them. Don't just base what you think of them on their social media page, because that's curated. My relationship is curated. Talk to me in real life. I share a lot more than maybe what most people share about their relationships, but I am still curating. We all are. So have real friendships with people in real relationships, long-term relationships, relationship that you say that you want. Find out what it took for them to get that, and find out if you actually want to do the work that they did. You might not. And you might realize we're all in the same boat. Anyway, those are my 4 tips. I hope that those are helpful for you. A couple of announcements. I am planning on hosting a workshop in February called How to Stop Comparing Your Relationship, just in time for Valentine's Day. So make sure you're on my email list. By the time I post this episode, I may have a link for you to sign up for that. If it's not there, make sure you're on my email list, because that's going to be the first place I put it out. And I'm also going to have a discount, early bird discount code. So I haven't made it yet, but that is coming up in February. So make sure that you are subscribed in all the places. Once it's released, I will let you know. It might even be in the show notes by the time this podcast is released, because I'm doing podcasts a little early now. And the second thing is my retreat with my teacher, Steffi Price, in Austria. I talked about it in my podcast on jealousy a few episodes back. The June retreat is completely sold out. Oh my God, that's crazy. My retreat in September, which is September 4th through 10th, it's all about the inner relationship, which is happening with my teacher, Steffi Price. I have 4 spots left in that one. So if you want to plan 9 months out for your 2023 and come see me and my teacher, Steffi Price, and be at her house in Austria, go ahead and shoot me an email, natalie@anxiouslovecoach.com, and we can hopefully get you a spot. So that's it. If you are finding that you are struggling a lot with FOMO in a relationship and you want to do some of these, practices that I mentioned today, I'm also going to include a link to Both Feet In, which is my signature course for those experiencing relationship anxiety, primarily geared towards women. But if you are outside of that identity, you can certainly do the course as well. It's just there's going to be a lot of language geared towards women in partnership. Other than that, it's been a pleasure recording with you today. I hope you enjoyed this episode and have a beautiful week. I'll see you in the next episode.